Well, the ongoing Santaco strike has left commuters stranded. On Friday, the Western Cape Department of Education announced that over 200,000 pupils missed school. This due to the strike. The department says the disruptions caused are unacceptable. But joining me now is Provincial MEC David Maynier, joining me, of course, to discuss this issue and more. MEC, thank you so much for your time and a very warm good morning to you. Let's talk about the negative impact so far by, this taxi strike, particularly to pupils. And is that number 200,000 still standing?
Well, the taxi strike is clearly a clear and present danger to teaching and learning in our province. On Friday, we had 287,000 learners who were not able to get to school, 9,500 staff members who were not able to get to school. And we also were compelled to cancel our back on track weekend classes where 14,000 learners would have been engaged in a learning recovery program. So the taxi strike is a clear and present danger to teaching and learning in the Western Cape.
What does this mean then until, for the time being, until the strike ends? We understand Santaco released a statement saying that the 9th of August will be the date with which the strike will end, but obviously schooling has to continue until then. What are the alternatives and, interim interventions in the meantime?
So first, we are ensuring that schools remain open in our province, and so that we focus on teaching and learning. We are, so far as possible, ensuring that our contracted learner transport operations remain in place to transport learners to school. And we are then appealing to parents, where possible, and of course, provided it is safe to do so, to try to make alternative arrangements to get learners to school. And we also, of course, appealing to the public, should they see any acts of intimidation of learner transport or indeed of learners, to report that immediately so that we can take firm action.
MEC, another worrying factor is that since the strike commenced on Friday, we've seen many acts of violence. Golden Arrow buses have been torched. A Golden Arrow bus driver has been shot at. We understand that a particular taxi was confiscated or at least impounded, and they found tires inside, assuming that perhaps they were going to lead to more violence. I understand the driver was also apprehended. Does this concern you that schools may be targeted, that school infrastructure may be targeted at this time? Yes, Santaco has distanced themselves from the violence, further condemning this criminal activity and warning, their drivers and operators not to be involved. But are you worried at all that there might be a concern for parents that these violence and criminal activities might reach the schools?
I am, of course, concerned. But of course, the violence, the burning of buses, the burning of infrastructure, and of course often the kinds of messages that are circulated on WhatsApp groups, cause parents to obviously make decisions about the safety of their learners and to keep learners at home. So I am concerned that the violence obviously has a chilling effect, and parents are not sending their kids to school. And it's precisely for that reason that we are asking parents to ensure that they try, where possible and where it's safe, to get learners to school. We obviously also concerned that learner transport, contracted learner transport schemes may be targeted and that schools may be targeted. But thankfully, up until now, we have had no reported incidents. Unfortunately, this is the third taxi strike which we have had to deal with. And in the past, there has been intimidation and, if you like, the torching of learner transport, which is a concern. But thankfully, that has not arisen. But if it does, I have been very clear that we will not hesitate to act, and we will not hesitate once again to approach the courts for an interdict to stop the violence and stop the taxi associations targeting learner transport or targeting learners and preventing teaching and learning in our province.
I mean, it is without a doubt, MEC, that when you look at the unemployment rate in the country, you also understand that most parents work within the informal sector, most of them taking taxis to go to the inner CBD to make some quick money, selling on the side of the roads or perhaps earning daily. Now, we heard from Santaco that they plan to shut down, or at least end the shutdown and the strike on the 9th of August. Should this continue to go on and no agreement is reached between the city and Santaco, and parents still can't, afford to go to work because of this strike and therefore affecting their income, which then affects the school fees they have to pay, have you considered any interventions should this possibility arise?
I think our first consideration, if the strike continues to Wednesday, or even, past that, our first concern is obviously to ensure that where it's provided it is safe for learners to be at school. Where it is not possible for learners to be at school, we have requested schools to put contingency plans in place. And that could involve a range of measures. That could involve, for example, a conversion to virtual learning. It could also involve the distribution of learner support packs so that learning can at least continue at home. And then, most importantly, when learners return to school, hopefully later this week, then schools will have to put in place individual catch-up plans to ensure that learners who have missed school catch up as soon as possible, and that learning and teaching continues uninterrupted in the Western Cape.
All right. I suppose what I'm trying to ask you, MEC, if I may very briefly, please, is that should the parents' income be affected by the strike, are you assuring that no learner and pupils' right to education will be infringed upon because of this strike or because of the parents' inability to perhaps gain an income due to the strike? That's my question.
So in the slightly longer term, you're absolutely right. Household incomes are negatively affected. People who are not able to get to work are struggling. And as you point out, that may affect the ability of parents to pay school fees. What I would encourage parents to do in those circumstances is enter into a discussion with the affected schools so that we can make arrangements in order to support those parents and ensure that learners continue to attend school. And as I've said, that teaching and learning continues uninterrupted in the Western Cape.
Well, thank you so much for speaking to me. Western Cape Education MEC David Maynier. That's where we'll leave it for this morning. But thank you so much for making time for us. This is at the back of course, the taxi strike affecting pupils. On Friday alone, over 200,000 pupils alone could not go to school. That's affecting learning and them getting to school and back.